Hey guys, it's Will. I'm going to show you guys how to factor in different ways. And the first part of this video is going to be factoring by grouping. So here we have our equation. 2x to the third minus 5x squared minus 6x plus 15. So the first thing you want to do when doing factoring by grouping is you want to separate this equation into two separate equations. So as you can see here, I separated it right here and then made it 2x to the third minus 5x squared, then subtracted 6x plus 15. So you're pretty much just separating them a little bit, not really, just by looks. It's a mental way of doing it. Then you kind of like break it up. So this first part, you want to factor what you have here. And then how you do that is you just take out x squared. That leaves you with 2x minus 5. Then over here, you factor this one out and you would take out a negative 3. And this would leave you with 2x minus 5. Then the final step to this, and you're all done, is you pretty much, you take the numbers inside the parentheses and you put them, since they're the same, you'll put them in one parentheses. And if it's not the same, then you're doing something wrong and there's something wrong with your equation. So you just leave it in one parentheses. Then numbers on the outside, so x squared and negative 3, you put it in its own parentheses. And that would be your answer right there. Alright guys, we're going to do factoring monomials now. So, this one's actually not as bad as everyone thinks of it as. So, this is our equation right here. And we're going to try to first factor the number. So that number is negative 18. So the best way to do that is, my personal opinion, the tree. Now you could break this up however you want. 9 and 2, 6 and 3. I chose negative 1 and 18. So as you can see, 18 goes into 9 and 2. Then 9 goes into 3 and 3. Then you circle the ones that are individuals, you know. So you do negative 1 times 2 times 3 times 3. Now here's where it comes into hand, I guess you could say. Here we have our two variables, g to the power of 4 and h. So what you're going to want to do, you have to do this in order to be correct. Along with the numbers you multiply, you pretty much write this out. So multiply g times g times g times g, then h. And that's literally all you have to do. That's your answer, right there. That's it. Not that bad. Alright, factoring differences of squares. This one literally is the easiest in terms of less work, but it does require you to think a little bit. So, pretty much, this is our equation here, x squared minus 16. What you want to do is just look at this x squared and see what multiplies into x squared to get x squared. What multiplies itself, excuse me. And you guessed it right, that would be x, right? So let's look over here. Negative 16, what multiplies itself to get negative 16? 4. So now we have those two numbers. Excuse me, what you do is you take the x and the 4, put it in parentheses. So x minus 4, but then you always got to do the opposite sign. So whether it's x plus 4, then you do x minus 4. So the numbers you get, you do the variable plus or minus what you get, I guess. So let's look at another example. 4x squared minus 25. Well, think to yourself, what multiplies itself to get 4x squared? And that would be 2x. What multiplies itself to get negative 25? Well, that would be 5. So as you can see here, 2x minus 5 and 2x plus 5. Bam. Look over here, number 3. You have 9x power of 6 minus y to the power of 8. Think to yourself, how do you get 9x to the power of 6? It's 3x to the power of 3. Y to the power of 8, y to the power of 4. Over here, x to the power of 4, x to the power of 2, 1 to 1. Alright, this is the hardest one, but don't fear. We got you covered. differences of cubes. So pretty much you have to memorize this formula, or at least know it. A to the power of third, or yeah, plus b power of 3 equals a plus b multiply a squared minus ab plus 2. Then this is just for the opposite sign. So if you have a negative equation, you'd use negative, positive, use positive, and the signs just change in here. So this is our equation over here, x to the power of 3 minus 8. But you could simplify that to x to the power of 3 minus 2/3. So this is our a, and this is our b. We just literally plug it into the equation. So you plug it in, you solve. Once you get this, you literally just simplify, and all you got to do is 2 to the power of 2 goes into 4. That's it. That's the first one. This one over here, same thing, just factor out and plug in your numbers and simplify. That's it. All you got to do is memorize this. Once you memorize it, you're in the clear. Finally, the diamond method. This is my personal favorite and the most commonly used. So first you need to know this formula right here. And what you do is pretty simple. So this is our equation, right? 2n squared plus 5n plus 2. Pretty much you always want to know that you want to have this. So you always want to end up in this. So you have to factor in the beginning to end up like that. But in this case, you don't have to in the beginning. So because we already have it set up like this. So what you're going to do is you take the a and the c and you multiply. That's the first step. So you take the 2. You don't worry about the n squared. You ignore that. Take the c and you multiply that. Excuse me, let me backtrack a little bit. First you want to draw a cross, just like this. And then on the top of the cross right here is the thing I was telling you about, the a times the c. So in this case it'd be 2 times 2. So you put that number on top. What you put on the bottom here is the middle number, the b. Again, you ignore the n, put the 5 there. Now what goes on the sides? This is the hard part. This will not be shown. So what you got to do to find the sides is you got to find 2 numbers that multiply to this top number and add to the bottom number. So in this case it'd be 4 and 1, because 4 times 1 is 4 and 4 plus 1 is 5. So once you have that, our variable's n, so you take your 2 numbers that you solved for. This one's right here is n plus 4, so you get that. Then you have n plus 1, so like that. But as you can see here, there's a 2 right here in the beginning. You would want this isolated. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide the 2 by the numbers. And this 4 is divisible by 2. So this becomes n plus 2. But over here, this 1 is not divisible by 2. So we're going to move this 2 over in front of that n. So our final answer is n plus 2, and then 2n plus 1. If we look over here, now this is a lot more complex. As you can see, it does not fit to our original equation. So we have to factor out a 2x. And then we do the same steps. So 48 top, 14 on bottom, 6 and 8 in the middle. Then what happens here is, since you factored out 2x, you put the 2x at the end of your equation, and there you go. You're done. Thank you for watching.